Evil Intent 2019 film explained. At the commencement of the film, we are introduced to an exquisite nurse who is diligently attending to her patient in the hospital. The patient, an elderly woman, is in a critical condition and experiencing difficulty in breathing. Consequently, the nurse, whose name is Gwen, approaches the woman and proceeds to turn off her oxygen supply and disconnect her breathing tube. As a result, the old woman's breathing comes to a halt. Surprisingly, Gwen creates a commotion in the hospital and urgently calls for the doctor's assistance. When the doctors arrive and begin saving the old woman's life, Gwen stands by the door, laughing. It is at this point that we discover Gwen's true nature as a deranged nurse who derives pleasure from witnessing her patients suffer. Nevertheless, the doctors successfully rescue the old woman. After witnessing the entire ordeal, Gwen departs without displaying any remorse for her actions. Later in the film, we are presented with a scene depicting a contented life of a woman named Mira, who lives harmoniously with her husband and son. While Mira's husband is engaged in conversation, their son approaches him and complains about his aching feet. This revelation unveils that Mira's son suffers from a medical condition that hinders his ability to walk unaided. Mira discusses her concerns about their son's condition with her husband, suggesting that he should attempt to climb the stairs independently. In response, Mira's husband dismisses her worries, assuring her that their son will be fine. Subsequently, we are introduced to Gwen, the psychotic nurse, who resides in Mira's house and has been entrusted with the care of her son. Gwen has become an integral part of Mira's household, participating in shared breakfasts. During one such breakfast, Mira's son accidentally drops his crutches on the stairs, which he relies on for mobility. However, as we have come to understand, Gwen is not one to act in the best interest of others. She had intentionally loosened the banister, hoping that when Mira's son leaned on it, he would fall. Gwen engages in these malicious acts purely for her own amusement, as we had witnessed at the beginning of the story. Regardless, Mira's husband prepares to leave for work and stands beside Mira. Gwen harbored feelings of envy towards Mira, as she found herself developing an attraction towards Mira's husband. In the midst of this, Mira's friend paid her a visit while she was engaged in conversation with Mira. During this time, Gwen began to eavesdrop on their conversation while playing with Mira's son. Mira's friend expressed her concern, suggesting that Mira should hire another nurse for her son, as both her son and husband seemed to have developed a fondness for Gwen. Mira reassured her friend, dismissing her thoughts as mere overthinking. However, Mira overheard her son's voice and realized that Gwen was responsible for the incident that led to her son's fall. Mira scolded Gwen for not taking proper care of her son. To Mira's surprise, her son defended Gwen, taking responsibility for the accident. Later that night, Mira apologized to Gwen for her outburst, acknowledging that she had shouted at her without reason. Gwen reassured Mira, stating that it was not her fault and that a mother's worry for her child was understandable. Despite knowing that Gwen was at fault, she still made tea for Mira, perhaps as a gesture of goodwill. Mira then joined a community where she met others who had children with the same illness as her son. Overwhelmed with emotions, Mira confided in them and broke down in tears. She eventually returned home, where Gwen offered her the tea she had prepared. After drinking the tea, Mira fell asleep. Shortly after, the doctor arrived at their home with her son's stretcher. Gwen intercepted the doctor and insisted on delivering it herself. On their way, the doctor mentioned that he felt familiar with Gwen, as if he had seen her before. When Mira woke up, she promised to reveal the truth to the doctor. That evening, Gwen visited the doctor's house and admitted that he was right, as she also often remembered him. Upon uttering those words, she proceeded to administer an injection to the doctor's arm. It is revealed that earlier in the story, the doctor had saved the life of an elderly woman. Gwen was worried that Dr. Mira's husband was unaware of this, so she injected him with a lethal dose of drugs, killing him. Later that night, Mira received a call from a man named David, who claimed to be a member of the same society she had joined for her son's illness. David revealed that his son had the same disease as Mira's son, and that his wife had passed away. He had hired a nurse to care for his son. Mira commended David for his actions. However, it was later revealed that David was actually Gwen, using a computer to alter her voice. The next morning, Mira's friend discovered that Gwen had left something on her husband's shirt and took it to the laundry. She also saw Gwen smelling the shirt, and suspected that Gwen had feelings for Mira's husband. However, she kept this to herself, fearing that it would ruin their family. That night, Gwen disguised herself as David again and spoke to Mira about her son. Gwen rushed to Mira's house to catch her talking to a man and succeeded in her plan. While on their way, Gwen informs Mira's husband that she overheard Mira talking to someone. Gwen's intention was to make Mira's husband doubt her and leave her. However, things didn't go as planned when Mira's husband spoke in favor of his wife, stating that she has been working hard and not getting enough sleep, which could be the reason for her worries. Gwen hugged Mira's husband and left. The next morning, Gwen and Mira's husband were looking for an excuse to sleep. When Mira woke up, she found that Gwen had done all the work in her house. Later, Mira received a call from her friend thanking her for the flowers on her birthday, but Mira was confused as she didn't send any. Gwen revealed that she sent the flowers and Mira started feeling unconscious. Gwen suggested taking her blood sample and getting it tested in the lab. At night, Gwen talked to Mira as David and Mira shared her problems. However, when Mira's husband and son arrived, she cut the call. Mira's husband saw a message on his phone indicating that David was a fraud, and he didn't understand why Mira was talking to him. Gwen did all the work in Mira's house, but Mira still thought she was wrong and apologized to Gwen. Later, Mira received another message that David was a fraud, which Gwen also read. Mira prepares herself for work in some way. Upon arriving at the office, she encounters her friend and informs him that her blood reports are completely accurate. And Gwen was correct. I simply require some rest. Her friend asks, should I tell you something? Exhibit to that doctor, who has no association with Gwen. Subsequently, she receives an email from David. The email states that the person who is messaging her about me intends to defame her. Then she also receives an email from that individual, who claimed that her son's life is in danger. After reading these two emails, Mira returns home. And she was also extremely worried. She had also informed Gwen about this. And she expresses her intention to meet that individual. I am going to the cafe in the evening. Mira informs him that Gwen's words are true. His wife is betraying him. The following morning, Mira goes to a cafe to meet that individual, who was actually David. He states that his name is David and he has never spoken to her. He also reveals that his wife had blood cancer. One day he received a call from a man who used to converse with him. The man instructed him not to visit the doctor. As a result, his wife started listening to him. He also shows her a picture of that man. Then Mira realizes that this picture is of the same man who was still conversing with her as David. However, Mira still had no doubts about Gwen. Then outside, we witness her husband, who had followed Mira here. He also witnesses his wife embracing David. This leads him to believe that Mira is truly betraying him. There was a friend of Mira in the house who comes to give her her bag. Gwen takes her bag inside the house. Then Mira's friend says to Gwen, I know you have feelings for Mira's husband. I witnessed you donning a shirt on that particular day. It is imperative to maintain distance from Mira's family. If you attempt to cause them any harm, then there will be no one more malevolent than you. Uttering these words, as she was preparing to depart, Gwen unexpectedly launches an attack on you from behind, employing a large bullet. In order to eliminate you, she also administers a drug injection. Subsequently, upon leaving the scene and returning home, she encounters Mira, who is engrossed in cooking. Gwen engages in conversation with Mira, and stealthily pilfers the knife that Mira was using to cut vegetables. She then escorts you to David's residence. It is at this point that we discover Gwen had previously served as David's wife's nurse. She conversed with him while posing as a man, and even instructed him to restrain his spouse. Here, Gwen also murders David using the same knife and intentionally leaves behind Mira's phone, which she had taken for a blood test, creating the illusion that Mira was responsible for David's demise. That night, Mira's husband returns home in an inebriated state due to his distress caused by his wife. Gwen attempts to establish a connection with him by examining his messages, particularly one from David, which mentions being unable to sleep because of his little boy. Mira's attention is then drawn to a bottle in her hand, labeled Little Boy. She recalls Gwen's previous mention of David and her using the term little boy as a term of endearment. When Mira goes to dispose of the water in the bottle given to her by Gwen, she senses the presence of a powdery substance. It becomes evident to Mira that the water has been poisoned. Mira proceeds to Gwen's room, where she discovers a book detailing various poisonous drugs hidden beneath the bed. Meanwhile, she notices that Gwen has returned home. When Mira opens the door, Gwen realizes that she did not consume the water from the bottle, which explains why she is still awake. After drinking the water, Mira accompanies Gwen to the hospital with her son, where he receives therapy. Mira desires to prevent her son from going, but he refuses to comply and departs with Gwen. After Gwen and her son departed, she returned to Gwen's room and began recording videos in which she recounted all the events involving Gwen. She also contacted her husband and informed him about it. However, upon Gwen's arrival home, she discovered that Mira had already learned everything about her. Mira's son was not present when she arrived. Mira instructed Gwen to go to her son. During their journey, Gwen disclosed to Mira that she had worked as a nurse for many years and had never been treated like a family member until Mira welcomed her into her home. Gwen assured Mira not to worry, as she intended to eliminate her and take her place. Gwen's motive behind this was her attraction towards Mira's husband. Meanwhile, Mira's husband returned home and, upon not finding Mira there, checked her phone. He watched the recorded video, which revealed the truth about Gwen. On the other hand, Gwen arrived at Mira's house with Mira and confessed to killing the doctor, causing Mira great distress. Mira began searching for her son in Gwen's house and was informed that he was still at the clinic. Gwen admitted to coming to the house to kill Mira and revealed that she had used a knife with Mira's fingerprints to murder David. Gwen intended for the police to believe that Mira was the murderer, causing her son and husband to despise her. As Mira attempted to flee, Gwen apprehended her and tried to escape from the house. Ultimately, the story concludes with Mira, her husband and son living a happy life once again. Meanwhile, Gwen faced punishment for her numerous murders. This demonstrates the dangerous nature of Gwen. If you invite someone into your home, be sure to inquire about their background. Take care of yourself and your loved ones. And with this, the movie story comes to an end.